Har Ganeth, the city of executioners, or the city of Cain, is a cursed place, dedicated to the worship of the bloody-handed god. A madness overtook the city long ago, a thirst for blood and flesh that ever since has only been kept in abeyance by some of the strictest laws in all of Nagaroth. Only in Har Ganeth are acts such as murder, thievery, and public debauchery considered to be crimes, a hard burden to bear for a people so steeped in thoughtless depravity. Worse, under Har Ganeth law there is but a single penalty for infraction. The transgressor is led in chains to the summit of the highest sacrificial pyramid and beheaded. There can only be one punishment in Cain's chosen city. Only the foolish or the clever are the lawbreakers in Har Ganeth, and it is not always possible to tell the two apart until the executioner's blade sweeps down. The truly clever have made an elegant escape long before this point. This situation certainly does not mean that internecine rivalry is less prevalent in Har Ganeth than in other cities. It is merely conducted in a different manner. The Dreadlords long ago learnt that commissioning a murder is as likely to end in their death as it is that of the victim. Therefore, they concentrate upon tricking rivals into acts of lawbreaking that can only be answered by the executioner's blade. Such plots are seldom anything other than subtle, and they can take years to finally reach fruition. Har Ganeth is a den of shadow politics like no other, where every request or concession is merely a piece in a wider game of disgrace and death. There is one being in all of Har Ganeth who is above its many laws. Crone Helebron has ruled the city almost since its founding, and sees no reason to obey her own dictates. Whilst she invites petitions from those who would purchase a portion of her immunity, for suitable favours, naturally, such requests are few and far between. It takes a scoundrel of a particularly bold or desperate sort to barefacedly admit law-breaking intent to she who is the supreme enforcer. Only on Death Night, an event of bloody excess in Cain's glorious name, is Har Ganeth's order thrown completely to the winds.
Send the word out across the world. Celebrate and give thanks to the mighty Lord of Murder for delivering unto us his world-born son. We have been blessed, and in his name we shall bear our blades in readiness for his will as voiced by his avatar. Hail Malekith, eternal Cain incarnate.
Crone Helebron, the Blood Queen of Har Ganeth, is one of the most ancient of the Hag Queens, and the second only to Morathi in Cain's sight. However, while the youth and beauty of Morathi never fades, that of Helebron is now somewhat expended, for the hag sorceress deliberately withheld from her the deepest secrets of using the cauldrons of blood. Therefore, ever more sacrifices are needed to fill Helebron's cauldron each year, and yet the rejuvenating effects last for less and less each time. Once beautiful beyond measure, the Blood Queen must now endure many dark months with the visage of an old and ugly crone for each stolen day of vibrant youth. It is chiefly for this reason that Helebron hates Morathi, and her wrath at the deception is only deepened by her knowledge that she would have performed the same exact portrayal had their positions been reversed. So it is that for many nights of the year, Helebron holds court hooded and cloaked to conceal her haggard appearance. Only her closest attendants are permitted to see the full horror of her aged and withered form, and they are sworn to silence under pain of death. It is only in the days following Death Night, where her flesh and form are renewed to full vigour, that Helebron walks the world unveiled, revelling in the power and sensations of youth. Those who wish a boon of her are well advised to seek it in this brief window of joy, for at other times her mood is capricious and sour, and an audience with her is very likely fatal. Ugly and worn as she may be, Helebron remains the greatest of the brides of Cain, Her mastery of the many ways of murder eclipses even that of Marathi, who is often too distracted by her sorcerous pursuits, and far outstrips the skill of other hag queens. It is she who leads the Lord of Murder's unholy rites, and dictates the holy creed that all witch elves must follow. She is so steeped in the ways of death that her merest touch can kill, and a single whispered word from her withered lips can open up old wounds to bloody life. Wherever Helebron treads, the gaze of Cain follows. Inevitably, insane fervour sweeps over all those in her path, driving not only witch elves but dark elves of all callings into a maddening frenzy fit to drown the world in blood.
The weak elves of Ulthuan fear us, for our ways are the true ways. They fear what they cannot understand, and instead cower behind the lies of their false history. Fools and cowards, it is but a matter of time before we wipe them from Ulthuan, and regain our rightful place as the masters of that isle. And from there, we shall take the world.
Witch elves, known also as the Brides of Cain, are the cruelest of all their heartless race, for they live only to serve Cain's malevolent demands for bloody, agonizing sacrifice. Their observances to the Lord of Murder are blood-slicked, kinky affairs. Still beating hearts are ripped from the victims' chests and hurled onto fires. Writhing flesh is daubed with gore-red runes, and altars are decorated with the entrails of dying captives. Yet ceremonies are but a part of the witch elves' worship. Their truest observances take place upon the field of battle. The Dark Elves worship many dark and forbidden gods, but by far the most prominent is Cain, the Lord of Murder. His is the largest cult in Dark Elf society, ruled over by priestesses known as Hag Queens, the mistresses of the Brides of Cain, the Witch Elves. Cain demands bloody, agonizing, kinky sacrifice, for he is the god of death and suffering. Every Dark Elf city has at least one temple dedicated to Cain, and there is a shrine to the Lord of Murder within every Black Ark. By far the largest temple is found in HAR GANETH, where day and night constant sacrifices are made to the bloody-handed god. On the eve of war, witch elves drink blood laced with poisonous herbs, driving them into a divine frenzy. Whilst in the god-touched state, witch elves have no thought for their own defence, and seek only to hack foes apart in blood-drenched orgies of slaughter. There is little grace to such an assault, merely a whirling storm of venom-coated blades that slash the foe with maddened fury. Those enemies fortunate enough to survive their wounds are rounded up by the witch elves at the battle's end, and quickly find out that they are not so fortunate. These poor souls are torn apart in wild victory celebrations, their blood offered in libation to the ever-thirsting Lord of Murder. Death Night is a festival that happens once a year, where the witch elves descend onto the streets of their cities in unbridled celebration of their bloody lord. This event is a time of terror in all of Nagaroth. The boulevards and alleys echo with manic drumming and shrill pipes, while thick clouds of blood-red incense drift around twisted mansions. Through the smoke prowl the roving bands of witch elves, murder in their hearts. Under the direction of their hag queens, they steal away any dark elves they can find, often breaking into houses to drag the inhabitants to their bloody altars. It is on Death Night, reinvigorated by the blood of the slain, that the hag queens are at their most beautiful and frenetic. Over the course of the following year, they slowly revert to their true, haggard appearance, but for that one night, they are wanton avatars of lustful slaughter, the true daughters of Cain.
We dominate the seas of the world because they are ours to do with as we will. Our weak-willed cousins once held all the oceans in their grasp, but allowed them to slip away as they declined into decadence. Not so with our forces. We strike where and when we will, leaving no doubt who are the true masters of the seas. We make slaves of the lesser races because they are fit for nothing else. It is only just that they should strive for their betters. What is truly insulting is how seldom any of them realizes the honor that we do them by enslaving them. Those we take are privileged to join something far greater than they ever would have been able to if we let them lead their pathetic, stupid little lives. To serve the Witch King Malekith is to serve the greatest ruler the world has ever known. It is a shame that the wretches cannot see that. But what else can you expect of such animals?
Talaris Dreadbringer is the chosen of Cain, captain of the HAR GANETH executioners and one of the most murderous war leaders in the world. So notorious has Talaris become within the city of HAR GANETH and beyond, that the rumour of his presence sets an unassailable fear in his enemies' quivering flesh, and the merest glimpse of his blood-encrusted armour has been known to rout foes from the battlefield. Some dark elves recount that Talaris once had a settlement razed to the ground as its inhabitants were butchered simply because he didn't like the name. However, legend tells a darker story. In the midst of an otherwise unremarkable raid, Talaris suddenly froze on the spot, his lips working madly as if in conversation with some unseen party. When Talaris finally recovered, he ordered the captives be brought before him one at a time. Each died a slow and agonized death at Talaris' hands, the rune of Cain etched upon their brow, and with their own whispered name the last sound heard. By nightfall, the village was a charnel ruin that unsettled even the stomachs of Talaris' followers, and it was they who set the place ablaze once their dread master had taken a ship elsewhere.
Lord Cain, I send you this meager offering, the first of many, on your night, Death Night. Let this be a sign of the compact between us, and lend your strength to me. Let the murders I commit this night be in your name and for your glory.
Talaris' destiny was forged long ago. He was but a stripling when the first great sacrifice of HAR GANETH took place, but as he watched the heads of the High Elves bounce down the steps of the great temple, he felt the beckoning of Cain in his blood. The next day, he crept up to the sacrificial dais, tore the blade from a guard, and slew his first captive, showering himself in his victim's blood. From that point on, his fate was sealed. He was one of the first inducted into the ranks of the newly formed HAR GANETH executioners. Helibron herself soon took great interest in her talented new disciple, and when the executioners first formed a bodyguard for the Hag Queen on a journey to Naggarond, she chose Talaris to lead it. Unlike Malekith, who claims to be Cain's mortal avatar purely for the accompanying political advantage, Talaris is the Lord of Murder's true herald. His dreams and waking hours alike are filled by violent whispers that urge him on to ever great acts of slaughter. Little by little, the Witch King has become aware of the unfortunate state of affairs, and knows that a reckoning between himself and the god-touched warrior will one day be necessary. Thus far, Malekith has stayed his hand, only out of uncertainty over which of them most relies on Cain's blessing. Meanwhile, Talaris has made no attempt to challenge the pretender, simply because the Lord of Murder has not yet commanded him to do so. While he has ever remained Helibron's loyal servant, Talaris' first devotion is to Cain, and Cain alone. He has slain fellow executioners without flinching when he thought them remiss in their dedication or sloppy in their blade work. Even witch elves are wary of his anger, and no few brides of Cain have found their necks upon Talaris' chopping block. Under his command, the executioners of HAR GANETH have partaken in such cold-blooded destruction that they have gained a fearful reputation across the world. They care not that their leader hears voices, so long as the ghostly words guide them to ever greater victories.